All right. So for everybody that's just joining us, hi, I'm Dustin Seaton. I'm the Gifted and Talented Specialist at the Northwest Arkansas Education Service Cooperative and president of Arkansans for Gifted and Talented Education, or also known as AGIT. AGIT is an organization that encourages the development and implementation of educational programs and initiatives throughout the state, especially when it comes to serving and identifying the gifted and talented youth of Arkansas. You can check out our new website for information at giftedarkansas.org. And we encourage you to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Being part of an AGIT and gives you access to webinars such as the one doing tonight, sponsored by our newly formed Enrichment Committee. Tonight's presentation is entitled Tips for Teaching Gifted Virtually. Our presenter is Patricia Hesse, the Gifted and Talented Facilitator at the Weiner campus of the Harrisburg Public School District in Northeast Arkansas. Patricia is one of the best gifted educators in all of Arkansas, if not the entire GT profession. I've seen her present before at AGIT conferences, and you are in for a treat tonight. She's going to discuss a variety of ideas for student engagement, as well as things that she's done with her K-6 students that have worked really well in the past. And I strongly encourage you to check out her website that she's already shared many of the resources she'll talk about tonight on weinergt.weebly.com. I'll post that in the chat as well. But as we know, in the time of COVID, we need help, all the help we can get, which is why we asked Ms. Hesse to share with you some tips tonight for teaching our gifted kids virtually. So I encourage you to sit back and listen from wherever you are, but feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, ask our questions or in the chat near the end of her presentation. It will also be sharing resources in that chat box as well. So don't worry if you have to leave. We are recording tonight, and we'll have this video posted on our new website, giftedarkansas.org. So with that said, I'm proud to turn it over to you, Ms. Hesse, and let you give us some tips for teaching gifted virtually.
All right, so we're going to get started. And first of all, when I saw this, I thought, all right, Dustin, you just wait. They're getting even. It'll be something that you'll have to pay for. There's a story behind this picture, but really this is not the one I wanted. I wanted this one, Tips for Teaching Gifted Virtually in Arkansas while at the Cannes Film Festival. And I don't know why he didn't include that one. So this is going to be fast and furious because I mentioned to him I've got about a day's worth of stuff, so we're going to get it in. First of all, the thing that I'm most concerned about when we talk about teaching gifted remote or virtual is we cannot ever let ourselves be irrelevant. I see some horror stories on some of the share groups that are on Facebook where programs have been told to kind of help out the regular classroom teachers, basically saying that this is a program that can be set aside until things get better. And that is a concern of mine. I think we need to fight super hard to make sure that what we're doing is relevant and what we are doing is included as a huge part of the regular remote instruction. Now, the thing that I think is our biggest problem, particularly whenever you think about doing virtual, is there are just so many bells and whistles out there. There's tons of programs that you can choose from, and it's difficult to know which ones you want to do. What happens is we're kind of like this. We find one program, someone says this one's good, you try that one a while, and then you find another one, you say that one's good, and what happens is you're running from one to the next because you've been told this is the one you need, and you never ever learn to completely utilize the program that you are currently using. And so I think what we have to do is weed the garden. Now, there is a lot of great stuff out there. I've just started using this, and the things that I see are things that I think I might want to use at some time, but right now I don't have time to use this stuff. There is a site, and you may be familiar with it. It's called, let me get right down here, let me see if it's on Wakelet. And I'm going to open up Wakelet and show you what it looks like. It is just a place where you collect different websites, different information that people are sharing. There's a lot of good stuff on here. I love all of these. What my problem was, I would see something and I think, well, I like that. And if I'm going to save it in a bookmark, it's just going to be lost. I'll never find it again. If I'm going to create a file in Google, it's going to be lost. So this is a place where you can just come, and if you see something someone shares, put it in there. It does a whole lot more than that. I'm not ready for that now because I don't have time. But it's a good place for students to even share what they're doing too. So that's one thing that I found that I really, really like. All right, let's go back here. All right, so we're going to talk about the fact that I think it's important to stick with a few things. So I'm going to talk to you about the tools that I'm using, and I put blinders on because I'm not going to run and pick up anything else at this point. I'm where I'm at. I'm going to use what I have. The first thing I'm going to use is what all classrooms are using, and that is Google Classroom. We have to buy into that, and I'm sure all of you are. However, I'm not using it to teach from right now. I'm using it for these things. I'm using it so my students can quickly locate my media center, and I'm going to talk to you more about that in a little bit. So they go to Google Classroom, and they're going to see the media center for that day. This is where they access things. They go to the media center, and they go to Google Classroom to open their ongoing notebooks. I'm going to talk to you about those. But once I've shared those notebooks and I've made a copy for each student, I never share those notebooks again, because they're going to continue to work in those every time they come to GT, and if need be, at home. So basically, only thing that I'm changing is if I have something extra. I'm also using Google Classroom because if kids miss work, what they're going to do, they're going to come back to the media center, and there is a filing cabinet here. They click on it, and it's going to take them to these media centers from days past, and they're going to be able to see what they missed. Their videos, everything are going to be there. I use Google Classroom because that's where I can get in and look at the kids' digital notebooks and see what they've done. I can make comments in them. So all I have to do is get into Google Classroom, go to where it has the work where you can see what kids are doing, and it's all there. And I'm also doing this because it does mesh with the regular classroom. All right, the next tool that I'm going to use and have used a lot is Google Slides. I had no idea how many different things you can use and do with Google Slides. A whole lot more than a presentation. Now, what I did, and we're going to be talking about this, I found a gal who had a video about making digital notebooks, and I really got into that. So I did that this summer, and there really wasn't a whole lot else to do. I thought, well, who knows what school's going to look like whenever we get back. Everyone's going to be stressed out. We're going to be reinventing the wheel every single day because it changes that fast. So I decided I was going to make digital notebooks during the summer, try to get all of those in place so that whenever we got back to school, I had most of my work done. These notebooks that I have are actually a year's worth. So I spent a lot of time. However, I found out something. Their Teachers Pay Teachers does have some things that they have created that are in that format where you can go ahead and upload them to a digital notebook. That's something that's become really popular right now. People are buying into that. And so you're going to see that you can purchase some of those. What I ended up doing, I created 5 notebooks from scratch that I did. I purchased 3. And it was the 2 thinking puzzles that I actually took those and I changed those. What I did, they were not in the format for a notebook. I downloaded them as PDFs. I uploaded them into a notebook one at a time. And then what I did, I inserted a box that they could put answers in. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted there to be a lot of variety in the notebooks because we all know that everything gets tiresome if you do too much of it. So what I did, I made each grade level, 5th and 6th have the same, 2nd and 3rd share, 4th has their own. There's a lot of difference between 4th graders and 6th graders. So I made each grade level of GT a critical thinking notebook, an active reading notebook, and because the science of reading's out there and they're wanting us to get on board, a creativity book, and one that has effective development in it. And all this was done using Google Slides. Now, this is what I'm talking about when I say the Digital Media Center. This was made in Google Slides. Now, I'm going to show you a lot of things, but when we get through going through these slides, I have got a huge library of videos that tell how to do all of these things. Some of them I made, some of them are ones that I used when I created these. I promise you, you're going to have everything you need to use if you need this. So what happens is this changes every day except for just some things do. So I changed the date to coincide with the day that those students have GT. Then over here, they're going to find out what they're going to be doing that day in GT. This is a live link to their Google Classroom. This is a live link to the GT website. Sometimes we use that. This is a link that will take parents to a place that has some information for them. And if it has a red flag, that means that it is ready to go. I haven't used this one a lot yet because I've been mainly working on getting my kids ready. We use Kialo. I'm going to talk about that. This is where they click on the filing cabinet, takes them to past assignments. This is information about a culminating event we're going to do at the end of the year with this unit we're doing. These are their notebooks. This is for 6th grade. So if a notebook is in a silver or a gold frame, that means they're going to use that notebook that day. So they are going to use the novel writing project notebook. Sometimes we use several notebooks, but for this particular September 15th coming up, that's what they're going to be using. When they start writing their novel, this takes them directly to that. And then these are 2 videos that they're going to be watching that are going to help them understand the place of setting and place in a novel. So this will change every time. Every time I do one, I make a copy of that slide and I put it over in past assignments. And I'll show you that a little bit better. So this year, knowing that it was probably going to be what it is, I did not want them to have a steady diet of technology. You know, if you sit in a webinar, I sat in one that was really good. It was 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon that we had before school started. And, you know, I mean, I was exhausted. I was tired of it and sick of it. And it was good. So I wanted to make sure that part of what they were doing was not connected to technology. So with this anthropomorphism unit, before school was out, I got the principal to order about 35 anthropomorphic novels that are on different grade levels appropriate for GT kids. And some of the 6th graders have got novels that are you would see in high school. I had one young man who's 6th grader, called him a reluctant reader, really, gave him Animal Farm, and he finished it in 1 week and loved it. So they are going to use these books as textbooks, and they're going to do things with them throughout the year. The digital notebooks that are created for that, they have this one is the effective one. It's called Anthropomorphic Wisdom. I will show you that later. And then this is the active reading notebook that they will use to show their annotations and to think about some questions that are related to their reading. And we'll look at all of these. This is what the room looked like when they came in. Their books were wrapped. It was a big reveal, and I did not let them choose their books this time. I wanted to challenge them. I know those kids pretty good, and so it was a big deal, the big reveal. They were really excited to find out which book they had. To go along with the novels, we are going to write a novel. It will be published by Lulu Publishing. It's a good activity they can work on at home in the event that we go completely remote. And then their Thinking Fun notebook has got it's a lot of brain puzzles. And the purpose of that is sometimes we work on it as a part of that activity. Sometimes, you know, kids just finish up things before others. So they always have something to do. They can always go to their Thinking Fun book. Another tool that I like that is a good way to start the class off and get them thinking is Kialo. And it's very simple. I'm going to pull this up and show you what Kialo looks like. It is actually to discuss pros and cons. So the one that we're going to use tomorrow says, place is an important character in a novel. If you agree, explain why. If you do not agree, explain why. And they've done these Kialos. They love doing this because what happens, this one is they're all working on at the same time. Super easy to do. They will, if I want to make a new claim, then I'm going to write what I think, the reason I think, yes, place is important. They're going to explain why they think that. They can do pros and cons. What's going to happen is as they respond, these blocks are going to grow. And so you'll see if there are maybe 7 green blocks and maybe just a few red. You can also see it in this pie format also. But the thing that they also love to do, they can actually vote on comments that they find really interesting. And so this is a good way to get them talking about what we're going to be doing in GT that day. So that is one that I like. It is simple. I have videos for all of these different programs in Kielo included on that, where I have all the videos saved. Another tool that I absolutely love is Screencastify. Screencastify is free. You can make a video that's 5 minutes long without having to pay anything. And truthfully, if you can't make a tutorial lesson or introduce a lesson or whatever you're doing for students in 5 minutes, if it's longer than 5 minutes, it's probably too long. They're used to watching YouTube videos and they're not that long. So I like that, but I went ahead and did purchase the extended version. They had a special for teachers. It was $20 for a year. So I can not limited by that 5 minutes. It's real irritating when you're working on something and suddenly it cuts you off. I use Screencastify for these things. So on these particular videos that you see right here, this one was, we did a thing that goes along with the active reading. It's how to write a summary. And that's something kids struggle with. Of course, I tell them all the time, it's much, much harder to simplify something than it is to make it complicated. So I made a video for that. This is a video that shows them actually how to take a picture of their annotation. So if they were at home and they were virtual, and you'll see when I show you the notebook, and I want them to select a page in a chapter that they annotated to share, then they need to know how to take a photograph with their phone and how to get that photograph in their Google Drive so that they can insert it in their notebook. And so this is a little video. I'm doing just that with my phone. And what happens is this particular digital media slide will become part of the past ones. So if they forget, they can always go here and look this slide up for September the 10th, and they will be able to find this video. And it's also good for kids, of course, who are absent. Another thing I use Screencastify for is my little kids, my younger ones, I have a lot of second graders and third. They're doing a thing that goes along with the anthropomorphism, and they have their anthropomorphic novels as well. And they are doing becoming masters of all the different types of animals, amphibians and mammals and all of those. So there is part of that where they have some information to read, and there's a lot of activities they do with this. Well, some kids read faster than others, and some do not. They're not as fast. And I'm not interested in teaching a reading lesson. I'm wanting them to get the information. So what I've been doing, this is, if they choose to read, they can read it. Or if they want to listen to it, they will see this and they can listen to me read that. I'm convinced that listening is probably the skill they need worse than anything else anyway. But I used Screencastify to do that. I will go ahead and make this reading a little bit larger, and I will read it with Screencastify. Another good thing about it, Screencastify is automatically hooked to Google. And so whatever you shoot in Screencastify is automatically going to show up in your Google Drive. Google Slides loves it. Another tool that I'm using, and this is where we are Google Meet school. I know a lot of you all use Zoom, but I love Google Meet because it's just so connected. And now then, Google Classroom will automatically let you schedule a Google Meet, which shows up on the banner. And they can get into it right there. So it's super easy. They don't have to rely on getting into it from their email or a link. Whenever we do have, I've not been fortunate because none of my kids have been remote yet, and I haven't had anyone sick. But I do have an iPad that we're using to record live lessons on a tripod, and then that will be moved and be part of, we can go back here, it will become part of there. So I'll put those there, and the kids will be able to see, and parents will be able to see where those are. Now, this is what we've been doing. About 3 weeks of school have passed. We've been having GT boot camp. And what that means is I have been teaching the technology and teaching how to use these notebooks. So it has not been consistent. It's just jumping here, there, and yonder. I may say, let's get in your active reading notebook. Let's do this. Now let's go and let's get in your thinking fund. And I'm wanting to make sure that they can easily maneuver around in those notebooks, that they know how to do that. They know where to find them. They know how to use that digital media center. They know how to find the past assignments. And so we have been working on that for 3 weeks, and we have been pretending that we are completely remote. And we finished Friday. I sent the parents a note and remind, and I said, you'll be happy to know, I'm sure the kids are going to tell you, we finished GT boot camp. And so now these kids, I am confident, even my second graders know how to use those notebooks. And I think that's the first thing you have to assume. Let's just let go of this wonderful unit we've planned right now, and let's make sure they're ready so that when, in the event that does happen, then they're prepared. And in the event that it doesn't happen, they still know how to use the technology. They know how to use the notebooks and to maneuver within them. Now, I'm going to take you out, and this is what Dustin will be sending you. I'm going to go ahead and go there and show you what is there. This is a huge file. It has a lot of things in there that are not necessarily for remote. This will be here, and of course he said it's recorded so you can get there. Now I want to talk to you about all of these videos that are here that you'll be able to access. All right, there it goes. This is the one I really wanted to show you whenever we started out, but I was afraid I would run out of time. So if we have time, I may still show you this one at the end. But if you do any kind of in-service with your teachers, this is a great video to start it out. It's automatically going to make them receptive to what you're saying. This is a Google Meet video tutorial for teachers. And a lot of times you're going to find there are, of course, Dustin and I were talking about this earlier. The one good thing about this virus is that it has forced us all to develop and get these technology skills that we were lacking before. Some teachers, our teachers now are comfortable with it. I'm sure yours are too. How to record a Google Meet. Let me go back up here. This is a Google Meet for parents. So if you use Zoom, a lot of times parents really don't understand exactly how all of that works. Maybe the kids do, but I think it's a good idea for parents to at least have an opportunity to see how that works by providing them a link that this is really easy to understand. This is a getting started with Google Classroom for teachers. And it has some things in there that we assume that we know when we work with Classroom. Classroom does a whole lot more and has a whole lot more options than what we are currently using, I promise. So this gets as a good way to see if you're at least using these before you extend that. Google Classroom for Parents. This is a great one. Parents are really confused about a lot of this, and you've seen all the memes that are out there. They're funny parents looking like, you know, they've got a glass of wine in their hand and whatever. And this is a good one for parents. It helps them to understand kind of what's going on. This is the video that I used when I started in on the digital notebooks. There are several out there now. I like hers the best. She's easy to follow. And then I created two about how I did it, which is actually just using things that she has, but I'm going to do one from scratch. And so this is how I made the cover for the notebook. And then this video, and I'm doing it, you're watching and I'm talking in the video. This is the one that talks about how I created the body of the video, of the digital notebook. And it's going to talk to you about some things as far as making it where kids can accidentally delete something and fixing it where you have boxes that you can move around. This is the instructional video for Kialo. And this is one that at some point in time, it may not be this year, but if I get a chance, I really want to investigate Kialo a lot more because I think that it would be something that would be good to use with our GT kids. This is the Bitmoji Classroom, which is what I used and followed when I first created my digital media center. And I will tell you this, the digital media center has worked really well with my kids. They like it. It's easy to see where they are. I did have one student that was absent one day last week. I forgot about that. And she got in the digital notebook in the past summits, and she got back there and found hers on that slide. This is something that I'm proud of, that it really is not remote, but in a way it is. And I'm going to tell you why I think it is. I had a young student who is happy-go-lucky fifth grader, and uh, this happened last week. And I came into the office from assembly, and they said his mother called. He wants to quit GT. I was shocked. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And so I got a hold of the mother, and she called, and she said, "Well, he just says he's just so stressed out." And I happen to know that his parents were going through a bad divorce, and he was staying at one place for a while and another, and he'd been real close to his parents. But it really still puzzled me a bit. So she said, "Go ahead and talk to him and see what you can find out. He just says he's stressed out." So I went down there and I talked to him, and he started crying. He said, "My mother says I don't have to go anymore." And I said, "What's going on? You know, ever hurt your feelings?" And he said, "Well, I lost my anthropomorphic book." And that's all it was. But he's got so much stress in his life right now. And COVID, I'd figured out, has stressed our kids. We don't see it. These are 2 videos that I made for Agate on Parent Day. And I have on here, they're social emotional. They are good to use with parents, but they're not appropriate for kids, because there's some things in there that I say and that I bring up that is not good for kids at all. They don't need to hear it, but parents need to hear it. It's not bad for teachers either. There are 2 of these. This presentation is a little over an hour. I really feel like that this would be something that you could use at some point with parents or with teachers, and regular teachers, because it actually gets into how you can discipline kids with showing them respect, but yet maybe do it from a different angle. So I'm going to leave those with you. I'm going to show you part of this one on the small screen. Actually, we'll see. I think I have time to do that. Well, let me go here. All right, so let me start at 11:40. And they're similar to this. Now, this is something I have shared with kids before, and some of the stuff on here you can. All right. Friends. He was one of those kids that you sadly see that kids kind of tolerate, but he had a hard way to go. Well, prom was coming up, and he was a junior that year, and he was excited about getting to go to prom. And so he started. All right, so it's full of a lot of stories. Now, folks, I've taught school for a long, long time. The first year I taught was 71, and I'm still here. And I don't know. I think I would miss it. So whenever I get where I don't know who I am, I'll quit. But this is full of stories. And in this particular story, the girl in the white dress was the most popular girl in school. And she heard there was a boy who had trouble finding a date, and the kids always kind of made fun of him. And she went up to him and asked him if he would take her to the prom. And it's talking about how you can talk to your kids or your students about their power to make someone's day or make someone have a wonderful memory. And so it's got a lot of things like that too. This one is how to share digital notebooks. And there's some little tricks to that. But this is something that you're going to want to do. And you, of course, it'll tell you this, but you must give them editing rights. This is a neat video for teachers because, you know, our view of Google Classroom looks different from the student view. And so this is going to show you what they are seeing, which is helpful to me. This is how to add materials into Google Classroom. Now, materials are those things that stay there all the time that kids would use for a resource or whatever. However, the Google notebook, the notebooks I've made, they have to be shared as an assignment because they're going to all be working in them. This is something that I love. I don't know if you notice up here, this is how to make one tab for your stuff. So this is my daily tabs for school. These are my daily tabs for this webinar, and these are my personal daily tabs. It's just so much easier to get your stuff organized that way, and this tells how to do that. This is an example of an instructional video that I did that is part of that digital media center. So you can kind of see what that looks like. And of course, the kids do not have to watch it on that small television. They can double click and it will open up into full screen. This is an example of another instructional video. This one is summary writing, and you can kind of get a feel for about how long it is. what I've typically been doing is, although I'm here and they're all here, I have not been teaching the instruction for, like, for instance, for summary writing with me standing there teaching. I've been getting them used to watching the videos. Now, they're, like I said, Friday was the last day of our boot camp. So now then I'll go back to teaching like I always have. However, I want to make sure that they catch on to how to double click, how to watch the video, how to go back to their digital media center, how to access their digital notebooks. And so I've been doing that. This is a great tutorial on Screencastify if you decide you want to do this. And this is one that I've made of some important things that you really need to remember if you're going to share a digital notebook. And so I put that on there for you. This is on Wakelet. This is the one that does lots of stuff, but right now I'm just using it to weed the garden and to get all of that stuff in there that I might want to look back at next year. I use this one all the time. I actually use this one to make me and my dream Brad's date for the night. This is a simple way to move background from an image. It's the easiest one I have found. And if you're creating, like, for instance, a digital media center, you want to put images on top of the background that are transparent so you can make it look like the inside of a room. This is really easy to do, or you can actually go into Google Slides and use the search image feature that's there and type the word transparent. And this is something we're going to watch a little bit later. I'll come back to. I use Canva. I love Canva. I use the free version, and you can make some of the coolest looking posters and signs with this. It's probably frou-frou right now. This would not be high on my priority. I probably would weed this till a more convenient time. And here's the video on how to lock images into slides so that they don't delete. So you can see there's a lot of stuff in this, a lot of stuff. All right, so let's go back to, let me get in here, see if I can get underneath here. There, let's see if it'll open up. Okay, so we're gonna look at the notebooks. And I have given you editing rights to all of these. So you can take them and use them and change them up. I don't care, did too much work on them for them not to be used. I don't care anything about credit. I don't want that. I want you to use them and change them up. So let's look at them. So let's look at the active reading notebook first. So what this is, it's going to be used in conjunction with their anthropomorphic novels. However, you could use it with anything. I made the mistake of putting this on Facebook in a GT share group. And man, I don't even know how many I shared. I finally just quit. And if they emailed me, I shared it. It was just too much. So this is going to talk about what active reading is. And this is a huge part of that science of reading again. So this is on creating summaries. And I feel like the fewer rules, the better. Smart highlighting. And I tell the kids, you know, you don't want it to look like you urinated all over a page. So we practice that. You have to practice these. How to annotate, and our annotating things are these. Right now, we are only doing this one and this one because we're going to use it to answer a question that's in this notebook. This one is, I think, or I wonder, this reminds me of something, and this is really important, and we're using it to find important sentences right now. And so we're going to talk about, this is still talking about annotation. So this is what it looks like. Let's get down here. So they have their chapter number, and they write the name of the chapter if it has a name. Then they click in here, and all they're going to do is write their summary. I've told them the summary should be no more than 2 or 3 sentences. And we have practiced summary writing, and that is something GT kids are just not very good at. This is where they are going to take a picture of a page that they have annotated in their book, because since their books are theirs, they can highlight them with highlighters, they can write in them, they can draw clouds, they can do all of those things. So they will select a page that they want to share, take a quick picture with it, of it with their phone, and paste it in here. We've been practicing on this. Then they have 2 questions to answer about that chapter that really, I told them they should take no more than 2 minutes to answer. In this chapter, what did you find that reminded you of something in your life? They tell what it was and why it reminded them of it. And in this one, in this chapter, what sentence did you think was the most important and why? And if they have annotated the way that we have practiced, then whenever they have annotated and have used these symbols, the I wonder is how it reminds them of their life, and they use the star for important sentences. And so you see this just repeats over and over again. So it goes on up. What we will do with this, now that they know how to do this, because we've been practicing it, remember, we're practicing the notebooks and practicing the program, I'm going to turn them loose. I'm through with them now. So they can do this on their own. They know, I can get in and I'll leave them messages from time to time because I can do that in a notebook. So that's this notebook. All right, so let's look at another notebook. This is the one, this one is Teachers Pay. Teachers had this one. I use this one with second and third grade, but you have to purchase this one. I went ahead and I've already done it into, changed it into a format that you can use. I love this feature. They have the annotating tools they can drag over there. This has been going really, really well. I did insert some videos. Now what happens is this one has all of the different animal groups, which is just too much for one notebook, particularly because I was adding a lot of videos about certain animals. And so what I ended up doing, I broke it up into the different animal groups. So this is the one that they're currently working on amphibians, which goes along with the anthropomorphic books they're reading. And so they have videos that they watch and that go along. They can, some kids rather watch their videos using their headphones, and that's fine. Occasionally we watch one on the screen, but I do want them to get used to watching them at home. So we've been watching the majority of them on their devices. And then when they get to the end of this, there is a certificate that says they're now an amphibian specialist. And so I've started working on the bird one. It's not here yet, but I did break this one up because it's just too long. This is the Anthropomorphic Wisdom book. This one is something that has worked really well for us. These are all the novels that we've read, that we're reading. Someone's reading all of these. And then these are the Aesop fables, which are also animal wisdom. And so how this works is, I'll just spin through here and stop on one. All right, so here's, we'll do this quote. This is from Black Beauty. I hope you will grow up gentle and good and never learn bad ways. So they just put what they think the wisdom is in that is. What is it saying? And then there will be one response that's about ties it to them. Why do you think that some who seem to have everything grow up and do bad things, while some who seem to have very little grow up and become gentle and good? And they're just little things to make them think. So there are a lot of these, and then it gets down to, and we've practiced these, here are some Aesop's fables, and they are short. They don't take long to read at all. But I did, for the younger kids, there is a video that they can watch, and it's an animated version of that fable. The older kids, I've told them, I said, you can read, you can do whichever you want. If you want to watch a video, you can, or you can read it. The videos are usually going to take you longer, but you can watch a video because a lot of them are cute. And so then it says here, remember, there are many different ideas about the lesson Aesop's fables teach. For instance, the lesson pointed out at the end of this video is different from ideas about what the lesson is from other people. So I want them to know there's no right answer. So they just put what they think the lesson is for them. And so that is what is in the wisdom notebook. The younger kids are also doing the Design a Zoo. And you have this one too. They really had fun with this one. We started learning this one. This is the younger kids. And what it's going to do, it's going to have them, since they are learning about all these different types of animals, if they're going to design a zoo, they have to know about, like, what do amphibians need or whatever. So we're gradually just going through this. Is this a good exhibit? Why or why not? It's even going to start showing them some of what zoos used to look like. And they're going to talk about this. But it gets down to finally they're going to design their own zoo. And they love to do this. They're really excited about it. This is one thing they went home and they talked to their parents about. So these two really go together really well. This is the Thinking Fun book. I do have a key for this. The kids don't have the key. You would have that one. This is another one I want you to purchase. And the information's here where you purchase them from. However, these were not compatible with creating a digital notebook. So I went through and I downloaded it, and I changed every single one of these sweet things to a PDF format. Then I had to do that. Then I had to put it in a JPEG form because Google Slides does not like PDFs. It wants a JPEG. And what I did is you can actually click and say change background, or and then when you do that, I can't do that on this one because they can't move it. I mean, it's there. This may not be the one I did. So then I put these in, and they can click in there and write their answers. So the different types of puzzles that are in here there's all different kinds, and you can see it's over 172 pages worth of puzzles that are thinking puzzles. We've done some kids like this book. They really have fun with it. Another one we have is the novel project. All right, so the 4th grade novel project is less dense than the one that 5th and 6th are doing. We have started on this one. This one was an idea that is not completely original at all. However, I did adapt it and change it up a lot. There is a place, and it's at the very last slide on here. I'll make it down here and I'll show you. It's called Namo Writers. And their project is that you have kids actually write a novel in like maybe a month and a half. I don't see how that works, but this is where they have lots of great resources. Their resources are free. So I took a workbook that they had for kids, and what I've done, I put it in and turned it into a digital notebook. Like this was not in there. I added some things. This is where they type their responses on what they're thinking about. And we have gotten to the point of where they have picked their theme. That was a great lesson for them. They think about the theme, and they think about what their theme wants to be. They want their theme to be. They were to pick 3 because after all, in a novel, you've got time to have 3 different themes. And so they picked 5 that they were interested in, and they were not limited to these, but they did have to be in a sentence form. They could use any of these, or they could go out on the web and look at themes. They selected 5, and then they narrowed it down to 3. This is on Write What You Know. And so there's a lot of stuff here when we get into that. All right, so that's what the notebooks are. Let me get back here. I got on my wrong thing. Let me go here to my little webinar, get to use my little tool that I'm really excited about. All right, we're not going to have time to finish all of this at all, but I want you to know there's a lot of stuff here. These are lower grade activities where you get kids to talking. And I honestly think this would be like for enrichment. I really feel like you could do this with a Zoom easily if you can tile the kids, depending on how many you have. But it gets them to talk, and these are links to that. These are links to projects that we did in the, whenever we were told to go home at the end of March. And so this is one we did. It was real popular. It actually had, let's see if I can get it to open up. Oh, that's not gonna be it. Okay, let me go on back. You can, these are on my website, but these are like, we did a service project that you could easily do as a remote thing that was really good. Had one little boy, his service project was his dad had inherited this great big barrel full of different sizes of nails and screws and all kinds of things. And his dad was trying to get his shop all spiffed up. And so the little boy took them out and divided them all up and put them in Ziploc bags that were matching. It was crazy. But these were good. So you can look at some of these projects. This is some things that I really like. I'll open this up. Some of these things are things that are definitely not appropriate for right now because we don't have time. But you can look through these sometimes and see these are just some things I've done that I really like. Love the Miyazaki unit. We did an mathematical art show. And then let's see, Andy Goldsworthy, that was a fun one. He does outdoor art creations in nature. We did this in the fall that are ephemeral, they disappear. And then these are some quotes, my favorite quotes that I like to use with GT kids that I feel like are really centered on those kids. All right, so look at that. This is this and that. And what you're going to see here is this is a pretty good. This is easy to use with teachers if you're trying to do in service with them on characteristics. It's also good to use with parents. It has as much of this particular presentation is on negative characteristics as it is positive. These are the YouTube channels that I subscribe to that where I get a lot of technology ideas and a lot of other things from. And this is something that has worked really well for me in the past. Sometimes I just pick a big overarching theme and I just branch out, and nothing seems to go together. So acceptance, I might pull up a book. I might pull up something in history on acceptance. I might pull up a project they can do. But themes are a neat way to go too. All right, so let me get here. And then the nudes. Okay, this was a pretty good thing. I gave this to you guys. We were going to do a thing with Google has a wonderful art. That's my favorite Google thing is their arts and their arts museum website. It's just fabulous. They can go on a virtual tour of any art gallery, museum in the world. But how do you handle the nudes? And so this was an activity we did, and I did it with 2nd through 6th, talked to the principal about it before. And honest to goodness, it worked. Those kids get it. They understand why they drew so many nudes. The pretest, there's one kid said he thought they were just perverts and all that. But I think our GT kids need this. Going to an art gallery is important, and they don't need to be afraid of that, and you don't need to be afraid to take them because of that. All right, so I'm going to go back here because I've got just a couple of minutes left. And I'm going to go down here really fast, maybe. And I want to say this, I can't stress enough the value of having a GT website. When you get on mine, it looks like I've been working on it all my life, and I feel like I pretty much have, but I'm a lot older than y'all are. And what has happened, it is accumulation, it's a portfolio of what you have done. It also is, I teach from mine. Under the anthropomorphism, when you get there, the kids met their books through a drop-down menu that had all the books on it, and they got to open their book up, and there was a video about their book, and I wrote them a letter about their book, and a good way to do that. And all the things we've done in the past and are there as well. What that does, it is a great public relations tool. It's a place that you can teach from. I teach from mine a lot. It's a place that you can share ideas, and it does serve as an archive or a portfolio. I like this. We're going to watch this, and I think this speaks well to what we're encountering.
We are constantly being bombarded by problems that we face, and sometimes we can get completely overwhelmed. The story of the hummingbird is about this huge forest being consumed by a fire. All the animals in the forest come out, and they are transfixed as they watch the forest burning, and they feel very overwhelmed, very powerless, except this little hummingbird. It says, I'm going to do something about the fire. So it flies to the nearest stream, takes a drop of water, and puts it on the fire, and goes up and down, up and down, up and down, as fast as it can. In the meantime, all the other animals, much bigger animals like the elephant with a big trunk, could bring much more water. They are standing there helpless, and they are saying to the hummingbird, what do you think you can do? You're too little. This fire is too big. Your wings are too little. And you're big, so small, you can only bring a small drop of water at a time. But as they continue to discourage it, it turns to them without wasting any time and tells them, I am doing the best I can. And that to me is what all of us should do. We should always feel like a hummingbird.
I love that. And I think we are doing the best we can. And sometimes we just need to give ourselves a break. Um, we're good. And I'm going to leave with this and I'll turn it back over to Dustin. Remember, I've been doing GT since 1988. So stick with your calling, however long you've been in this, and watch your stock of ideas grow. You think about how many years that is. That's a lot of years of working with GT kids. So we're through with our race, and I'll turn it back over to you, Dustin.
That is awesome, Patricia. We do have a few questions I wanted to get to. One, do you have any concerns about students jumping ahead in the notebooks, or have you established guidelines, expectations for dealing with that?
Okay, so as far as jumping ahead in the notebooks, I don't really care if they jump ahead or not. We do have the lesson ahead of time. In the novel notebook, they're a little uncertain of that one because a lot of these things, they have writing, in their language arts class, but this is different. They have to plan this out. So on that one, I have told them that we're going to stay together on that. We're not, but as far as the others, I've like, for instance, the young man who finished his Animal Farm. I've got him another book, by the way. And so once I've turned that notebook loose, if I've got a student that wants to finish reading their anthropomorphic novel in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and wants to go ahead and do all of it, that's fine. I'm fine with that. In the thinking, I don't have any fun. If they want to do that too, I'm okay with that. If they get home and they just want to work on it, I think that's fine too. The second and third graders are probably not going to be able to do that. They probably need some direction. So if we do go virtual, we will work on the notebooks using, well, we use Google Meet, but we'll do them together. Just like we've already planned this out. How it's going to work for me is, in the event we were to go completely virtual, my GT time would still be the same time it ordinarily is. And so during that time, they would log in with me, and we would work on the notebook that way. So other than, and the one as far as the wisdom one, I don't have any problem with them doing that either. There's still a lot of Aesop's fables that I haven't put on there yet. So if they want to go ahead and do that, I'm fine. The only one that I would rather them not do it with is the novel project, and it would be a little difficult for them to do that, I think.
We had a comment on Facebook. This is good for more than just GT teachers. Thank you.
It is. Yeah. The reading one in particular, I think that, the active reading thing, I have to admit this, I groaned and moaned having to take that science of reading. I thought, oh my gosh, is this going to ever be over? And I thought, oh my, this is terrible. But, I really did learn a lot. I really did. And I felt like that was something that we needed to really be doing. It was pushing the reading in a way that engages the brain. And so I talked to the kids about, if you're a great reader, your brain doesn't have anything to do. It's bored. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to go to sleep, or you're not going to really know what you did. So that one for sure. And I've had teachers that have gotten the wisdom one too, with the Aesop's fables and all of those. So that's good. I'm glad. It's good. It was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. We had another question. What are your best resources for virtual kindergarten enrichment?
Okay, for virtual kindergarten enrichment, I'm going to go, if we have time, I would love to go back here and show you. Let me see if I can do that. The resources that I have for kindergarten are, I'm not a worksheet girl. And so I'm going to show you what are some of the types of things that you're going to see here. And there are a lot of them. There's enough for a year. So I'm going to skip down here. Like, here's one that I did with kindergarten when it came back. And so we're just going to talk about odd, unusual beaches. And I let them talk. Now, if you want to find GT kids, let them talk about stuff like this. So it'd be easy to identify those kids. So once we talk about them and they get so excited to talk about them, then we come down here and we do this activity. And I'm not going to read it because it'll take up all your time. But we imagine, what would it be like to walk on a beach made out of books? And they'll talk about it. Well, you could pick up a book and read it. And then what would it be like on a beach made of thorns, and all of these things. And then they get to come up with ideas. So most of the type of stuff that I have for that age, let me see if I can get out of this, is going to be talking. Like here's one on growing old or growing up. This one is on actually paths. It's on different paths. It's a lot of talking things. So if you go over here, these enrichment activities, like here is things that are read. This was a fun one. They liked this. So they pull the slide up and they have to say something that's read. And if they guess something that I have put on my slides, then they kind of get a point. Then they come up with their own things. But that's what has worked well for me with kindergarten kids and first grade, is getting them to talk. I'll have to say this. I don't have to do kindergarten first as much anymore, because what we do a morning assembly, and I have a face of creativity every day in that assembly. And so they meet creative people and they learn creative thinking skills. And so the whole school sees that, including, the kindergarten and first graders. So they get, we have assembly every day and it's about 40 minutes long. So they get a pretty good dose of that.
I was glad you shared your website, because we use that a lot in our K2 differentiation training that we do around the state. If anybody has not been to Patricia's website, it's wienergt.weebly.com. I posted it in the chat on both the Facebook Live and in our webinar, as well as the Google link to the folder that you shared with all those resources. But we'll also have that available on our Agate website immediately at the conclusion of our webinar.
And I was going to interrupt. I do have my email here. I'll respond if you have a question, or if you want something that you don't see, you can let me know. One thing I was going to suggest too, the notebooks that I've shared in that folder, it would be a good idea if you made a copy of that, of each one of the notebooks yourself, or where you can make a copy of the notebook or duplicate or whatever, and then go ahead and put that in with your stuff, and that way you can change it and it's not going to affect anyone else. So, I don't care what you do with the notebooks, just do whatever you want to with them. If you want to change the cover because you're not doing animals and you want to do something else, that's fine too.
What I love about your website right now, especially if you're doing kindergarten or first grade enrichment, is that you have the artist of the week, character words of the week, musician of the week, place of the week.
Okay.
And
Let me show them that. Let me show them that. All right. This is something else that I think would help you if you have younger kids. All right. So what happens is we have, there's a lot of stuff you can do here with younger kids. We do places. So for each, for a week, like Rio, and there's stuff there for a whole week. So let me click here. So they learn about, there's a lesson on the giant sequoias, and it's showing how big they are in proportion to man. But there's something there for every day. Our kids love the places. They also love the artist, and these are geared towards kids. They actually are also follow all of the objectives and that they have for art in Arkansas. But you can see there's lots of them here. There's projects they can do. There's things that they can look at. Let me see if I can pull one. I'm covered up over here. I'll just let them look at it. There's things about Halloween art. It's artists that do all that. And then there's musicians. They can listen to the music. There's stuff about their lives, about them growing up as kids. And so all of this is geared towards children. And then here's the face of creativity. But I'm going to confess, I don't keep that up to date. And I'm going to tell you why I don't keep it up to date. There's too many people. So I don't ever repeat. We repeat year 1 and 3 and then 2 and 4, then we go back 1 and 3. But I have a new face of creativity person every day. But I am doing this. Let me show you this. And when I get this finished, at some point I can share. The faces of creativity that I do, I am now keeping in slides. So for instance, if we go here, last week we did the Silly Symphonies were face of creativity, because that's where Disney cut their teeth. And here's one, and it has all the information about them. This is on a man who is paying homage to the bowerbird. And so the kids learn about the bowerbird is the one who builds this weird looking nest, and he collects all this pretty stuff. So this guy made a huge art installation. So I don't know how many of these I have, but they're good for just a little bit. And there's videos that come with most of them too. Okay, I'll shut up.
We had another question.
Okay.
What is the average amount of time it takes to create one of your digital notebooks?
Okay. You know what? At first, I was really slow and it took me a while, but here's what I would do if I was going to try to do one at this point. What I would do is this. Let me get back here and get on those. Let me get on one of the notebooks. I would do like I did with this, the amphibian one. I could have done that with these. Instead of creating an entire notebook, create a chapter. So like, for instance, if you're working on something and you know what you're planning on doing, like say for the next 3 or 4 weeks, then don't do the whole year's work. I had time to do that this summer because we couldn't go anywhere, but do a chapter. And then instead of it being, you can do like this one right here, you can go ahead and let them do the chapter that you've made and however long it is. And then as you finish a chapter, you could add it to a big one. And the video that I got you on those side ones, it's going to show you how to add these tabs. And it's going to show you, see, for instance, here, I can go to the slide. It's just like, works just like a table of contents. So you could later on, if you wanted to put them all together after you did a chapter or a unit or part of a unit, you could add them all and put them in one then later on. I would do it that way. I would do it in small chunks. And in that case, once you get used to it, you'll go a lot faster.
Well, Patricia, it is at the 7 o'clock marker, and I cannot thank you enough. You are a wealth and a gold mine of information. So on behalf of all the panelists and those watching on Facebook Live, thank you for—
Wait a minute. We've got one more thing before everybody leaves. I got to end with this. Just hang on just a second. It's very important to me. It's very important to me. So don't anyone send me an email the rest of the week because I will be busy.
With the Cannes Film Festival this week?
Yeah, I will be busy. Yeah, I will be busy. Learjet's right out here outside Wiener right now. I got to go to in.
So we're getting a lot of thank yous on Facebook and in the chat. Patricia, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
If you
stop sharing my screen, how about? Is that what you want me to do?
No, we love it. We love it. If you missed tonight's presentation at all, it will be recorded in about or posted on the website in about 30 minutes to an hour. Thank you again for your wealth of knowledge and your many years of serving our gifted kids in Arkansas. Having you and all your knowledge shared upon us is just tremendous. So thank you.
Dustin, you're going to make me have good dreams tonight. It's so wonderful. Thank you. About myself. I'm going to feel so good about myself until in the morning.
Well, on behalf of all of Agate, thank you very much. And thank you all for tuning in tonight.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to click stop share and I'll see you.
All right. Thank you so much. And